I want you to think about the person at work you trust most, the one you eat lunch with, the one you text when your boss is being unreasonable, the one who knows which projects you stayed late to finish, which ideas you fought for in meetings, and which failures broke your confidence. Now imagine that person, that one person, was the reason everything was falling apart. My name doesn't matter, but my story does. I started at Callaway & Reed, a mid-sized marketing firm, fresh out of college, 23 years old, hungry, ambitious, willing to work harder than anyone in the building. And on my very first day, I met Dana. Dana was everything I wanted to be. Confident, polished, already 2 years in, already liked by everyone. She took me under her wing before I even found the break room. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. The kind of work friendship that bleeds into your real life. Weekend brunches, inside jokes, venting sessions that lasted past midnight. She was my person at that company, and I thought I was hers. The first sign that something was wrong came about 18 months in. I pitched a campaign concept in our weekly strategy meeting, a social-first approach to an automotive client launch. Nothing groundbreaking, but solid, well-researched. My work. My manager, Greg, nodded once, said, "We'll circle back," and moved on. Standard. I didn't think much of it. 2 weeks later, that exact campaign launched. Dana's name was on every email. In the all-hands meeting, Greg praised her instincts, her creativity, her initiative. I sat in the back of that room and told myself I was misremembering. That maybe it was a parallel idea. That maybe I hadn't explained mine clearly enough. That maybe it was a coincidence. I was very good at telling myself things weren't happening. Over the next year, the pattern repeated, subtly enough that I kept doubting myself. An idea mentioned to Dana on Tuesday would somehow appear in her presentation by Thursday. A project I'd spent 3 weeks developing would mysteriously land in her portfolio on the company intranet with her name in the author field. But it wasn't just the credit. That was only half of it. The other half I wouldn't discover until much later. What Dana was doing, behind my back, behind closed office doors, over casual coffee runs with management, was building a narrative. A quiet, consistent, insidious story about me. That I was disorganized. That I didn't follow through. That I had potential but couldn't execute. That I was a great brainstormer but not a closer. She never said these things loudly. She planted seeds. She let other people grow the doubt. I started noticing the distance in Greg's responses. The way he'd give Dana the high-profile accounts. The way my performance reviews went from glowing to lukewarm without any feedback I could point to and fix. I asked Dana about it, of course, more than once. She always had an answer. "Greg is old-fashioned. He's warming up to your style." "Don't stress. You're doing great." "Maybe just be more vocal in meetings." I believed her, every single time, because that's what you do when someone is your best friend. You give them the benefit of the doubt until there's no doubt left to give. The night everything changed started with a mistake that wasn't mine. Dana had CC'd me on an email thread by accident. She meant to forward it to Greg. Instead, she hit reply all on a chain that included me. It was 3 lines, maybe 4, but those 3 or 4 lines rearranged everything I thought I knew. She'd written, "I know she's frustrated about the Hendrix campaign, but honestly, the original concept was half-baked. I cleaned it up before presenting. I just don't want her running point on Morrow and Associates. She's not ready, and I think it'll reflect badly on the team. Happy to take lead and keep her in a supporting role. Let me know your thoughts." The Hendrix campaign. My campaign. The one she'd presented as her own. And she'd just casually rewritten history, in an email, to justify cutting me out of the next major account. My first instinct was to confront her. March over to her apartment, knock on her door, say her name, and watch her face fall. But I didn't. I don't know exactly when the decision crystallized, but somewhere in the 48 hours after reading that email, I stopped being hurt and started being strategic. If she'd been doing this for months, maybe longer, then a confrontation would accomplish nothing except giving her time to manage the narrative. She was good at that. I'd watched her do it for 2 years without realizing it was aimed at me. So instead, I started documenting. I went back through every shared drive, every project folder, every email chain I still had access to. I pulled timestamps on document creation versus document publication. I screenshotted every instance where my drafts predated her original versions by days or weeks. I requested edit history on files she'd taken credit for. The company's document system showed every version, every author, every timestamp. It told a very clear story, one that had my name at the beginning and her name at the end, with no explanation in between. I also started keeping a private record of every meeting, not secretly recorded, just detailed written notes, dated and time-stamped, saved to a personal drive with no company access. And I watched, patient, quiet, still bringing my lunch to her desk, still laughing at her jokes, still acting like nothing had changed, because nothing had, not yet. The moment I had been waiting for arrived 6 weeks later. The company's annual client showcase, the biggest internal event of the year. Every department presenting results, every senior leader and major client in the room. Greg had put Dana front and center to present the Morrow and Associates campaign, the campaign she'd sidelined me from. I'd been preparing for this moment for 6 weeks, and I'd said nothing to anyone. Dana went up there glowing. She walked through the campaign with confidence, the strategy, the execution, the results. She was good, I'll give her that. Polished, compelling. She'd practiced. Greg was beaming. And then the Q&A opened. I raised my hand. Dana saw me and smiled, confident, unworried. I asked a question about the strategic foundation of the campaign, specifically the audience segmentation framework. Where had it originated? What was the research methodology? She answered fluently, credited her own analysis, her own instinct. I nodded, and then I said quietly but clearly, loud enough for the room, "That's interesting, because I'd like to walk everyone through the document trail." I connected my laptop to the presentation screen before anyone could react, and I put up 12 months of evidence. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't accuse anyone of anything. I simply showed the timeline, the document versions with my name, dated weeks before her presentations, the email she'd accidentally sent me. The pattern, project after project, campaign after campaign, laid out with the kind of calm clarity that is more devastating than rage. I let the evidence speak. The room was silent for a long time after I finished. Greg looked at Dana. Dana looked at the floor. And 2 weeks later, I sat in an HR meeting where I was offered a promotion and a formal apology, and Dana was offered the chance to resign before being terminated. She resigned. Here's what I want you to take from this. Betrayal from someone close to you doesn't announce itself. It comes disguised as friendship. It whispers instead of shouts. It makes you doubt yourself before it makes you doubt them. But the truth leaves tracks. It always does. You just have to be patient enough and strategic enough to follow them. Trust carefully. Document everything. And never, ever underestimate what a quiet person in the back of the room might already know.